Ready? I'll call this meeting to order of the Washington County Executive Committee. The meeting has been posted and is in compliance with our laws. Mike Schwab will run the meeting, will succeed me after we get this meeting going. He is shortly going to be behind me here, so he'll be along. Please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. First, last week's meeting into the consent agenda. Are there any changes or anything to be of note?
There is June and July on there too.
Oh, okay. So
both of those I don't see
any problem with that? All right. Then we'll consider those as accepted. We have a Fair Park Horse Arenas update. Do we have Scott here, or are you taking that, Mr. Burke?
I believe Scott updated Jamie.
Jamie, you taking that? Yes. Oh, okay. Go ahead. Thank you.
There is a report that the Chief Public Works Officer put in your packet regarding the status of the project. He just wanted to close the loop and report back that the work was completed and the final cost of that work. And I'm here if you have any questions about that.
everything went well.
Yes, great feedback. So thank you for your support of that project.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We will move on to the overview of the City of West Bend, the Prafke Break site. And you'll
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
I just wanted to give a brief overview of this project, a little historic context. So the Prafke Break site is a site in West Bend that has been one of the high priority redevelopment sites on the inventory that was created over 10 years ago, and we are finally having an opportunity to assess the site and redevelop it. Back in 2020, we received a U.S. EPA revolving loan fund grant, and it is due to expire at the end of September of this year. The revolving loan fund grant is actually kind of a tough nut to crack in terms of finding the right site to use the funds for. So unlike the county assessment or the U.S. EPA assessment funds, the revolving loan fund has not just a narrow focus for where the funding can be spent, and it's typically the remediation component and the planning for that remediation, but it also has some very large transparency requirements. So there is a community involvement plan that needs to be developed and followed. There needs to be, public meetings, and unless you have a developer that is very experienced in working with a U.S. EPA revolving loan fund grant, typically the right site for those funds is a site that is owned by a municipality. So in anticipation of asking for an extension to the revolving loan fund, which I do anticipate that I will be submitting an extension for that fund by the end of July, early August, we thought to get the best chance of getting an extension from the EPA would be to have a site that is already through most of the approval process. And the stars aligned with the Prafke Break site. We have been working with the City of West Bend and their consultant, Stantec, who is the county's consultant, and EDWC, as well as the Wisconsin DNR, in putting together a full package, really a roadmap to be followed from the Phase 1 assessment all the way through up to, but not including the redevelopment, so all the way through the remediation. Adam is going to come up and provide you with a little more detail on those requests for funding. But before he does that, I just wanted to give you an overview of the full package of developing this site. And I know typically we would come and request, funds for a Phase 1 assessment, and then we'll wait and see what the results are, and then come back for funding on a Phase 2 assessment, and then hazard mitigation planning, a remedial action planning, and it's a step-by-step process. But due to the expiration date of the revolving loan fund, we put together this full package, this full roadmap. So the SRC met last week, and they did approve funding for the Phase 1 ESA. It's under $10,000, so that is moving forward. The two requests we have today that Adam will review is the SAG grant match, and that SAG grant will fund Phase 2 hazard mitigation testing and remedial action planning. The second request for you today is redevelopment planning. And then in addition to that, the SRC also approved funding through the US EPA revolving loan fund for eligibility determination, community involvement plan, analysis of the cleanup activities, and a decision memorandum, all to not exceed about $16,000. In addition to funding those things that need to be completed to apply for the actual loan of the revolving loan fund, the SRC provided a preliminary recommendation to the RLF committee. So the loans from the US EPA revolving loan fund do not come to this committee. It actually goes to the revolving loan committee of the EDWC. But the SRC gave preliminary recommendation for up to $580,000 for a loan for abatement, demolition, subsurface remediation, and reporting. So I just wanted to provide you with the big picture, the whole roadmap for the assessment and cleanup of the Prafke site. And Adam is going to provide you with the details on the specific requests.
Two questions. First, did we need a motion and a second for this? If there's money involved, or is this just discussion?
This was just part of the overview
I just wanted to
agenda
verify, 'cause
item.
I know we're
And
talking
yeah,
monies. The second question is, you keep saying loan fund grant. Is it a grant or a loan or a combo or what?
it is a loan. It's a loan program.
Okay.
I consider it a grant through the US EPA that provides loans.
So it's got to be repaid, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
There is a portion that it could be potential for forgiven, but we are very far from that discussion.
Gotcha.
We are just setting the stage to get to the point where we could apply for a loan.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Ms. Silsky, 1 second. I read through the material and I saw that there was a lot of work performed, I guess, like in the 80s and 90s. Mm-hmm. Are we just going over the same work, or is this in addition to?
This is work that is in addition to, there has been work done on the site for removal of the contamination materials that have been there. And I'm going to actually hand it over to Adam, and he'll be able to provide you with some of that detail.
Great, thank you.
And I'm just going to additional questions.
So the 80s and the work is to confirm the assessment work from the 80s and 90s, because there was different regulations with the state at that point to confirm their results. But in addition, there's another plume that wasn't really assessed. It was just kind of there. It was identified, but it wasn't, the further assessment work wasn't completed. So there is another section of the site that does need new assessment work, I would say. So, yep.
I guess my concern is, after reading the material, is that we're kind of putting more money at something we've already spent money on, and it's just a confusing situation. I'm not saying it's necessarily wrong or anything, because honestly, my real big concern is that site could be heavily polluted because of the nature of the industries that were all in there, especially the auto yards. You'd have tons of benzene and gasoline and all the rest of that in the soil. So,
Yeah. So the one thing to keep in mind is when the property changes hands, you actually have to do a phase 1 environmental site assessment. The bank usually requires that, and those are only good for 6 months. So in terms of the phase 1, that, is historical, and they're going to be looking at that again. But yeah, the site is heavily contaminated, and so it is very important that we do a thorough analysis of what is there now, since a lot of that material has been removed.
good. Thank you.
And in addition, the site itself hasn't, other than the phase 1 environmental site assessment, it hasn't used funds from our funding source as of yet. So all the other assessment work was completed by private individuals funding assessment work too. So just for further context.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. We are finished, as I understand it, with agenda item 3B. And now we are moving on with item 3C, or are we still continuing with 3B?
I'm continuing with the overview. So
Okay.
just a little bit more context on the site itself. So as Deb has mentioned, it's been a priority site since 2014. The history of the site has, as you saw, has had several different uses. The namesake of the site is Prafke Break in the 80s to 2003. And then most recently, it was owned by 5R Processing, or processors, which was illegally storing hazardous material there and went to jail and fined. And that's the reason we're kind of in this current state of, or the site is currently in its current state, where it's vacant and it's just kind of dilapidated and kind of falling apart. Since then, the city of West Bend has been working really hard to get this site redeveloped. It's right next to the Eisenbahn Trail. It's in the middle of a residential site or residential development. So they have been working through the court systems to assign a receivership to the site. So the courts have assigned a receivership. The receivership allows the site to complete assessment work and further kind of with the eventual end goal of transferring the site to a new property owner for the redevelopment of it. Before, it was kind of locked in that, property owner, we couldn't touch the site, even though the roof was collapsing and certain things like that. There was a raise order that was completed. Children, homeless people kind of wandering through the site, breaking in, stuff like that. Since the receivership, Waste Management has been on the site through the city of West Bend. They utilize some earmarked funds through the Wisconsin DNR to clean up a lot of the material that was in there. 5R Processor was a recycling company, and they were just kind of hoarding a bunch of electrical waste there. Waste Management came on the site, cleaned out a majority of the actual items that were stored there. And then the EPA actually were on the site as well to clean up a portion of this asbestos that was on the site. So only a portion, not all of it. In addition to that, now we've been working with the city to try and identify funding sources to get to that eventual redeveloped state, and that's where we end up now. So, I mean, unless you want me to go through all the funding sources we kind of have allocated, it's just kind of a best guess and estimate at this point. But yeah, we have several different funding
I think the funding sources are well documented in the packet, so there's no need to
Okay.
re-emphasize those at this point.
Sounds good.
Supervisor Shadron.
Thank you. One quick question. When you talk remediation, is that going to also include the building demolition, or is this just cleanup?
Potentially. So
Okay.
we can utilize the cleanup loans for demolition if we need to get to the contamination itself. So if we need to go through the foundation to get to and remove the contamination,
Gotcha.
then yes. If it's not, that it might only be a portion of the demolition. But
Correct.
either way, it'll get closer to redevelopment, and that private entity or developer that comes along won't have that cost associated with the site.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any further questions at this point?
I'm good.
If ever there was a site that needed brownfields remediation, it's this.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, now on to item 3C on the agenda. Do we have a motion? Supervisor Schulteis, Supervisor Kelling.
Okay. So the first funding request that we have is the site assessment grant match. So the idea behind this, so Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation has a site assessment grant which allows for or provides funding for assessment work and the environmental reporting that's necessary for the site. So to kind of get more bang for our buck, we were working with the city and their consultant to, well, they haven't applied yet, but if approved, they will apply for a site assessment grant for a total of $150,000. And attached to that grant is a 33.33% match component that the city will have to pay. So not anticipation, but the reason for this funding request is to provide that match, that full 33%, and then the city of West Bend will pay back 20% of that match to us. So in the end, we'll be paying $40,000, and then they'll be paying, well, we'll be paying the $50,000 right away, and then the city of West Bend will provide that 20% match commitment back to us. So in total, 40% is going from the site assessment fund.
Hang on, let him finish.
Yep.
Were you finished?
Mostly, but I think I lost my train of thought, but questions could help. So,
Go ahead.
The West Bend, when are they due to pay that back? Is it at the end of this thing, or before we get going, or?
it would be when they're awarded it. If they're awarded it, then we would request that 20% back, because that's when the completion of that match would be allocated. And we've done one other similar we've applied for a SAG grant match through the city of Hartford as well for the South Main Street sites. So we have done this in the past as well. That was the other thing I was going to say before brain, pause. So, yep.
Any further questions or comments on this item? Then to the motion of whether we should recommend the county expend $47,500, of which
40,000. Sorry.
the city would pay back $9,000. Am I looking at the
10,000.
wrong?
Yes, you might be looking at the second funding request.
Okay.
The first one's 50,000 and a total
Yeah.
of 40,000, right?
Got it. Yep.
Yeah, this is for 3C for the SAG match. It's 50,000 total with 40,000 from the county and 10 from the city of West Bend.
Okay, yep. There are two items that were labeled Prafke full, and I got confused on that.
Yep.
To the motion then, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. To the next one, item 3D. Do we have a motion? Supervisor Shadrin, Supervisor Kelling.
Okay. For this funding request, we have a reuse planning request for the Prafke site. So the idea behind this funding request is we would like to start engaging the public early in the process to get feedback on what the eventual concepts for the redevelopment of this site will be. Similarly, we've done reuse planning before for the St. Gabriel site. And then kind of similarly, we're also doing a market analysis for the site to kind of get the best ideas of what would be feasible for a developer to redevelop the site into. And similarly, we've done that in the city of Hartford with the Kmart site that's now Festival Foods. The total request is $47,500, and it would utilize from the site redevelopment program, it would use $38,000, and then the 20% match that the city would have to provide would be $9,500. The eventual deliverables will be a reuse plan for the site, which will include concept plans to basically, outline what the preferred end uses will be on the site, like residential, commercial, things of that nature. A site analysis, so what's near the site, what kind of benefits or amenities are adjacent to the site, and then the marketing analysis as well in there. So with that, are there any questions?
Supervisor Kelling.
Thank you. So just trying to get my head a little bit around this. This is kind of after we get it cleaned up, plan towards making this site reusable?
Yes. So after it's cleaned up, once a developer is on the site or on board with purchasing the site and redeveloping the site, they can utilize this plan to create their own design. In addition, the Wisconsin DNR and other federal funding like the EPA usually require some type of, they don't require, but if there's plans in place that show that the public have been involved in the process, it's easier to get funding for the site as well. So it's not, this isn't going to be connected directly to the SEG grant, but additional funding down the line like the USCP revolving loan fund, it can help with the process.
Okay, and then that could potentially get it off our hands. I guess I'm concerned that at some point somebody's going to throw this into a TID district, which seems to be, I mean, it's probably the best use of a TID district because of the fact that it is a brownfield site, and you're going to put it back on the tax rolls because it's doing nothing now. Mm-hmm. Where exactly is this site located?
This is just south of downtown West Bend. So it's off of Oak Street. Do you know where there's the school? I think it's a middle school. It's now...
McLean, I think that is. Is that the
is it Badger? Yeah, Badger School. Yeah, it's kind of near that, but if you...
It's right on the Eisenbahn.
Yeah, it's right off of the Eisenbahn.
Oh, okay.
It's
so that's
North of Decorah.
all right.
Yeah, it's a unique site. It's kind of it's lower in an elevation than the surrounding houses. So, and it's surrounded by kind of trees, so it's a little bit hidden. You only kind of get like the front of the site if you go down Oak Street.
I was going to say,
yeah.
It's bordered on the Eisenbahn on the east, and on the north and west, it's just residential subdivision. So it really does make sense to have that redeveloped to match the surrounding area and have access to the Eisenbahn.
But that's currently commercial, right?
It's industrial.
Industrial. Okay. So the city will have to change that before they do anything.
Yes.
Okay. Just trying to wrap my head
Yep.
around the whole
Of
thing,
course.
because obviously there's going to be a lot of moving parts in this.
Yes.
So, okay, thank you.
You are welcome. Any further questions or comments? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you for your report. Item 3E, guidance on joint review participation. And for that, we have Aaron Dahl.
All right, good evening, everyone. So here we're talking about one new tax incremental district, and that's in West Bend, and amending two that are in the village of Slinger. I'll start with West Bend, and I'll go in the order that they're put into the packet. So West Bend is proposing to create TID number 18. That's on the south side of town along Rusco Road, basically between River Road and County Highway P, South Main Street. It's a mixed-use TID, currently 315 residential units and several industrial sites. I think about 860,000 square feet in the project plan at least. The project plan is listing costs for infrastructure and incentives. The infrastructure piece is mostly Rusco Road. To support that kind of development, the road would need to be reconstructed. They're also talking about roundabouts on either end. One of those would be funded through the TID. The other one is the one on P would be a county controlled. My understanding is they were already kind of generically discussing the possibility of a roundabout there. We would kind of continue with that process and with those discussions. The residential component being proposed here is next generation housing. Deb and Christian from the EDWC have been engaged with the city on this. Deb is still here. She noted that she could help share whatever information or answer any questions that you might have on the NGH piece. I think in terms of from our standpoint on the Joint Review Board, those infrastructure components, there are some those that are called those half-mile projects. If you remember, we've been sensitive about those in the past. The city is proposing a cost share here. The last time they proposed a cost share, we were okay with that as well. Basically, the city would fund a portion of that infrastructure, and the tax incremental district would support a portion as well. So the city recognizes that they're getting some benefit out of this too, and they're ponying up the money to pay for some of it, which I think in the past has mitigated our concerns in that regard. I think another thing to note here is if this district is created, the city will be what's called TIF'd out, meaning they won't be able to create another district until they close one. So that's not a bad thing. That's statutory, and the city's fine with that. They seem totally fine with that. And there are a couple that are sort of on schedule to close in the next couple of years. So we'll look forward to that as well. I think so overall, like I said, Deb is here to answer any questions you might have on the NGH side if you've got any, but not a ton of concerns here from my perspective. Given some of the folks that are engaged on this project already, we've got some assurances that the best practices in regards to due diligence and things like that we usually like to see will be followed. Not a ton of, no real concerns to report. But I'd be open to any questions or any feedback or guidance.
Supervisor Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Aaron, so I read through this stuff, and obviously a pretty large residential component to this. If this were built out, and I strongly believe it probably would be, would that be able to cover and pay the TID off if the industrial component doesn't follow through? Because I really have my doubts about the industrial portion of this, because it's not a great place. I mean, I know there is some industry over there, but currently I don't see this as an extremely viable area for access as far as getting on and off the freeway and the types of things that heavy industry looks for. It could take a while to sell on this, and I'm concerned that the TID district is also financed out 19 of its 20 years, which gives you kind of a slim line there. I just don't want to see my city, the city that I live in, left holding the bag on an unpaid or upside down TID.
Sure. I'm not sure if Deb, are you able to speak to the sustainability of the residential piece?
So I've been mainly involved in the next gen housing component of this, but in the discussions that I've had with the city, it sounds like the industrial that is proposed there actually needs rail access. So it's an ideal location for the rail access. Because it's right there, if you know, the end of the Eisenbahn is right on Rusco, and that's the end of the rail line too. So, but in terms of the next gen housing component, yeah, they're proposing 315 units. We have not gotten specifics or an application from them. They are still working through the design component and the layout and the phasing of that. And once I do get all that information, then I'll be bringing that forward to this committee for review and approval.
Yeah, so Aaron, I mean, those are my concerns. So
Okay.
when you're at your joint review, you know, please keep those types of things in mind. I realize I don't represent the West Bend, but I do. I mean, I'm one of the supervisors that actually, his district is West Bend. And I have concerns about these TID districts and overextending all these TID districts. And I've made that known across the city as well. So, and you know, I just don't want to see them holding the bag.
Absolutely. I appreciate that feedback, and I will make sure that I ask questions and get clarity to make sure that we're all comfortable there. So,
Thank you.
Supervisor Schulteis.
Thank you. Just to confirm from what I see here, these are all next-gen owner-occupied. There isn't going to be any rental units?
Correct.
Because he said mixed use. My mind goes, you know, to a little bit of everything. And so I was just curious if it was definitely just all owner-occupied.
They are all owner-occupied, and there'll be a combination of single-family, ranch, duplex, and townhome. So, and the one thing I also wanted to point out too, with the one of the discussions that, as Aaron mentioned, we're working with the city and EDWC for next-gen housing component. We're actually looking at the TID paying back the $20,000 per owner occupied over the course of 20 years, which is a very similar situation, an example that we had with Regal Place up in Kewaskum.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else before I go?
Just a real quick
Supervisor
question.
Shadron.
Thank you. And I remember hearing this from when I was at the town of West Bend. So they just annexed this, right? Or was that done a little while ago? Because I thought the town of West Bend said that the city's buying up more of their land.
they did annex a portion on the eastern portion of that, and it was, I'm not exactly sure the timing of it, but it was recently enough where the TID has to pay the town the taxes, the lost taxes on that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I read like there's another year.
Another year? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And then, if no one else has any comments, from a fiscal point of view, I think as the Joint Review Board looks at this, I don't think there's any reason to object to it. What I'm struggling with in my own mind is, as we look at Washington County and try to preserve farmland on the one hand, it seems like we're saying, well, let's use farmland for industrial development on the other, and I'm trying to figure out where our principles really lie. So I can't oppose it from a fiscal point of view, but I still wonder, should we be expending the amounts we are for farmland preservation if we're going to turn a blind eye to this sort of thing? And I think that's something we need to look at in the future. Supervisor Shadron.
If I can add to that comment, I don't know how we can control much of this,
Right,
other than the
right.
public money part, because a lot of farmers are subdividing anyway when they want to retire, right? So unfortunately, that's a difficult battle, so.
Supervisor Kelly.
And I would say, obviously, I'm the chairman of land use and planning, so farmland preservation is something big that I've been doing. But you have to keep a couple of things in mind, that one, this is kind of within the city limits as it is already. And two, it's not really like a watershed or anything like that either. So a lot of the farmland that we're looking to protect are usually lake and stream watershed properties. whereas this one is pretty much in an industrial zone. It is in our 2050 plan as kind of being in that area. I mean, this whole TID does actually follow largely what our 2050 plan is. So I don't think it's, I mean, there's the undeniable fact is that farmland, some of it within the more suburban or urban areas such as West Bend is likely to be sold and converted to residential with our current needs. But so long as that we're preserving those watersheds and stream areas, I think that's probably more what we're trying to do.
Thanks for that clarification. Ms. Silsky.
Yes, I also wanted to point out too, just to piggyback on your comment, is the fact there's already existing manufacturing to the east and to the south. And so it does kind of make sense to have that blend in with additional manufacturing industrial to the north, that one parcel.
Thank you. Anything else on this item before we look at Slinger situations?
Thank you. So with Slinger, we're talking about mainly TIDs number 8 and number 4. We'll start with number 8, but they do touch each other. They share a border. So what we're talking about is basically Highway 60 going east-west, and then Highway 41 kind of north-south, a little bit out of an angle. But generally speaking, TID number 8 is in the southwest corner of that intersection, and TID 4 is northeast. Basically, what's happening with both of these amendments, there are some just kind of technical changes that they're looking to make in order to basically make the financing work for some development projects. TID number 8, the amendment there, they're really just looking to basically just to shift some parcels from TID number 4 into TID number 8. That basically allows those parcels to have a longer life, meaning they can deliver the incentive they need to accomplish this development and spread it over more years. So the annual impact is less.
Big question.
Supervisor Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are they underwater on these parcels? That would be my question, because I've seen this done with previous TIDs that were underwater, and then they rolled them over and extended them into other TID districts.
Sure.
I find that offensive.
So I do too. I agree. In this case, I do not believe that's the case. We actually, the county executive and I had a chance to meet with the village president and the village administrator in Slinger. The meeting on this, actually the first joint review board meeting on this was just this afternoon. And so we heard from them where it's not underwater. They are. This actually reduces the overall life if things get developed the way they're supposed to by moving these districts or these parcels into this district. It allows them to extend the life. Annual impact is less. More increment comes in to help close out the district faster. So in this case, no, it is not. Yeah, go ahead.
Anything else on this area?
No real concerns here at all. So,
Anyone else?
No, I'm good.
Thank you.
okay. And then lastly, number 4. Number 4, so they're looking to amend number 4 basically to make it eligible to be a donor district. They want to TID number 4 is a very big success. TID number 6 sits in their downtown. TID 6 is not in distress. It would close under a normal timeline, but it's not flush with increment by any means. There's a development. There's in the downtown of Slinger. I'm not sure how familiar you are with it, but there's a funeral home that's been closed. They've been trying to get that thing developed for the better part of a decade. I think more than a decade now, and they're finally been presented with an opportunity to do so. But it sits in TID number 6. TID number 6 does not have the ability to support the kind of incentive that's needed to develop that. So instead, they want to take some of the dollars available in 4, shift it over to 6 to be able to provide that incentive and to get that piece of property developed. Let me just make sure I'm reflecting all of my notes here, but so the incentive piece is something that we in the Joint Review Board had focused on, right? The level of incentive, you always want to make sure you're not over enriching, right, these developers. And so the incentive that they've identified here is basically 11.5% of the cost, which what we're used to seeing in the market here for projects like this is somewhere between 10 and 15. So right in line. I think the development here that we're talking about, there's some commercial space. There are some apartments, there are some townhomes. I think we're talking like 39 total units, but like 30 apartments, 9 townhomes, and then some commercial space on the first floor of the apartment dwelling. It is also set to improve the parking in the downtown area. A lot of that parking for those new buildings will be down below those buildings themselves. So it'll also create a few new parking spots. So another improvement for the downtown in Slinger. So I think in this case, it's stretching the life of a district slightly. There, from my perspective, not a ton of financial concerns overall. I think while it is stretching the life a little bit, to help municipalities solve these long-standing downtown development type problems, I think it's a good opportunity. So,
Supervisor Shadron.
If I recall, I think that funeral home's already been demolished, right?
It has been
Vacant
demolished.
land, and I think it'd be tough to find somebody to fit in that area and then do everything what you just said
Right.
you wanted to do, but hopefully it works.
Right, yeah.
All we can do is help them out, and you being a money guy, I'm assuming that you're comfortable with everything the way you said, right?
That's correct.
So, I guess with that being said, I'm okay with it too.
Supervisor Kelly.
So basically, this is like a creative financing. You're using some proceeds from District 4 to extend to District 6. So is that funeral home property, is that within the boundaries of the District 6?
It is. It lies in District 6. So
Okay, so they can actually do it, they don't have to do any changes there or anything like that?
correct. Then they don't have to amend District 6. It already sits where it is. They're amending 4 to make it a donor, so they can slide the money over to 6.
Okay, well, that seems reasonable. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
All right, that gives me what I need.
Thank you.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Moving on to discussion item 3F, pay increase for the county board. This is a discussion item only. Chairman Schleif put together some interesting information. My comments to kick it off would be these. If we were to look at how much inflation has changed since the last time the county board's salary was changed in, as I understand in 1999 when it was $550 to, and assuming it was April of that year and assuming that it's April of 2025, if the county board salary had been kept in line with inflation, the monthly salary would now be just over $1,060 per month. Now, I don't think anybody's got a stomach to go that far, but by the same token, I don't think anybody else would be willing to put up with nothing over that time either, right? So as we consider this, it's my opinion that the county board supervisors do provide a valuable service to the citizens of Washington County, to the constituents of Washington County. It's also my opinion that even people who receive government funds who do absolutely nothing that benefits their fellow citizens receive periodic increases. And so it would make sense to me that in the interest of fairness alone, that there be some kind of increase. And it would also make sense to me that in the future, as a budget is considered, we perhaps look to the April inflation rate of each year and perhaps make an increase in increments not less than $60, that would be $5 a month, that would make sense to move forward. It would be easy. It would be a suitable time for review if we did that in April of each budget year. And in my mind, that sort of thing just makes sense there. Now I've kicked that off a little bit. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Supervisor Shadrin.
Thank you. So yes, I reviewed this too, and I talked to Schleif, Supervisor Schleif, a little bit on this too. My first thought was, yeah, if it's been 20 years, maybe we should consider it. But then when I look at the comparable counties and stuff, it still seems like we're pretty much in line with a lot of the other counties. Now, that being said, they could be behind as well, right? I'm not sure how they have comparable counties. They got Dane County in there, and I'm not sure how that's comparable because their population is way more than ours. But I guess if we look at going down this road, yeah, we'd have to pick one or the other. Either do one increase to hold us over for the next, say, 10 years, or I'm not so sure if I like the yearly thing because that almost seems like the people always say that's a bad way of doing things, right? Because then you vote once and it's a constant pay raise, right? So I'm kind of torn on this, to be honest. And that's kind of where I sit on it.
Okay, Supervisor Schulteis.
Thank you. So I totally understand and agree with what you said, and thanks for putting the math together about what it would be at and putting kind of a reality check mark there. I am a little concerned that is this the right time? Obviously, I think it was 26 years that we haven't taken a raise, but considering Washington County and the staff and what may occur with the budget, I'm concerned that this might not be a good time. What does that look like? You know, if there are positions that are cut or things that happen at the staff level, but the county board supervisors got a raise. It's also a servant role. I think anyone who comes on board as a supervisor sees it at least somewhat like that. I know I take it that way, that I'm here giving back and serving my constituents in Washington County. So I'm kind of torn as well.
Thank you. Supervisor Kelly, you going to weigh in?
Oh, you betcha. And you get ready because I'm ready to cook. Okay, let's look at the facts of this whole thing. First of all, the information that was provided by Chairman Schleif, dead accurate. It's right on. 26 years ago, I started the job I work in now. I make 107% of what I made when I started without changing my job title or getting a promotion. Okay, so, when you consider that, 26 years, we haven't done any kind of raise. And in fact, remember, we cut the county board from 30 down to 26, then down to 21. So, and we also eliminated the health care and all the rest of that stuff. We've actually shrunk payroll quite a bit from even the last time that there was even a raise. And During that time, we did give raises to all the constitutional officers. So the sheriff got a raise, the executive got a raise, the treasurer got a raise, the register of deeds got a raise, the county clerk got a raise, the clerk of courts got a raise. All those people did in fact get raises, and yet we did not bother to take one. At what's proposed here, I did rough numbers, and these are very rough, they're not accurate by any means, but when you consider the overall budget for the county and what this raise has kind of produced here, kicking up the regular pay and maybe another $50 for committee members or committee chairs, you're talking about 0.0097% of the budget. So 97 1,000ths of the budget overall. We're talking, at best, it's not even a rounding error, and I'm sure Mr. Dahl can certainly appreciate that. It is, in fact, you're talking a total of what, $15,000, $16,000 maybe? I mean, that's not, one constitutional officer in the last 8 years or 10 years that I've served on the board has probably made more than that in just their raise alone. You know, I have been, and I would suggest it should be biannually, okay? If you're going to do a 1% or tied to inflation, I would suggest that it coincides with the new county board and done biannually. And again, going on current rates of inflation, you're talking 1.5 to 1.75%, Mr. Dahl. Would that be pretty accurate? Now, not throwing out the high water of the Biden era, okay, you know, and the COVID and all the rest of that. Generally speaking, in the last 30 to 40 years, we've been talking about 1.75% in total inflation. I've always been a person who goes out and looks for people to run for office. That's kind of one of the things, you guys all know it. I'm a person who solicits people to run. One of the things that I've always been involved with and tried to do is find working class people to run. When I got on this board day one, I was all about that. I love our retirees. Thank you for all you do for our community. I love our business professionals. Thank you for all you do for our community. And those people can serve pretty much at will on any of these boards and committees. Working class people, however, have a much more difficult time because they have to take time off the work. They have to use vacation days. They have to do things, and it's not always that good. I mean, example tonight, both Mike and I were rushing back trying to get here in time for the meeting. It was very stressful, very difficult to do. I want to be able to get good quality working class people because they are the largest constituency that we have in this county. And their representation on this board is extremely important. I served as the chairman of moving meetings to evenings, meeting times, back when it was done 8 years ago. And we got that done and got the meetings moved from 9 in the morning to 7:30 in the morning, then eventually to where they are now, 6 o'clock in the evening. Specifically so, working class people can represent. And I agree 100% with you. This is service to our community, but there's also a component that requires us to run for office and pay money, and sometimes there's, you know, we're going to get signs, we're going to have to go out there and do media spends and door knocking and all the rest of that stuff. That's involved too. And I really want to make sure that we're opening up the field to the maximum amount of people that can. And we're not talking about going gonzo with how much money. Again, it's barely a rounding error is what we're talking about. Recently, West Bend just redid theirs for all the aldermen and the mayor. And while there was the usual griping, which you would expect, a few of the people I talked to, they reached out to me on whether or not this was a good idea. And I said, well, you know, it's going to look bad no matter what. But you haven't had a raise in a gazillion years. You know, you don't do this for nothing. You know, you have skin in the game on this, both in your community and all the rest of that. We work very hard. We do the things we want to do. 26 years, okay, is not that bad to finally ask for just a little something back, you know? So I'm all on board with this. There's a few things I agree with this. I'd like to see the $50 for the committee heads. I would like to see it tied to the biannual budget at about, you know, what inflation rate is. And I don't even care if it's a half a point under inflation. I'm fine with that too. You know, we can work out some of those details. And I think immediately, I forget what it called for. It definitely called, that's the other thing too, the chair's position. This is very important too. When it comes to the chair, it's a part-time job, allegedly. But if you look at the last 3 to 4 chairs, they've been working well over 40 hours a week. Mm-hmm. Now, when we all get together, all 21 of us, and we decide and we pick a chair, do we want the best person or the person that's available? You know, we shouldn't be choosing the person, well, they don't actually work for a living, so they have the ability to go be the chairman. No, you want the best person, the person that the most people have the most faith in, that has the best gift of gab and the most fight in them and willing to take a bold stance. Those are the people we want to look for. What you need, it's almost impossible if you have a job to be a chairman. You can't. I mean, you'd be limited to the retirees and the professional people. You know, it won't allow regular working class people to be the chair. And I think that's a huge mistake, because it might just be the best is going to go unable to do it or unwilling to do it because he can't give up or she can't give up the money that they earn on their regular job. And then what? We're going to settle for who's available rather than who's the best person to take the job. So even at the chair level, I see it as a modest increase. And personally, I don't think it's necessarily enough, and I also think they should have insurance. Because quite literally, even if they don't get a salary increase, I think being on the insurance would probably be very helpful for making more people, the pool, if you will, more possible for them to run for chair. I don't want to limit our options for the chair. I want to increase our options for the chair. You know, and I've certainly had designs on it. Everybody in this room knows it, and I'm not going to say that I wouldn't in the future. But it's not necessarily for me, because this is going forward. We need to make sure we've got the best available person. Okay? So the best person for the job, not just somebody who has the time to put into it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Supervisor Schotter.
Thanks for that. Thank you. Thanks for that heartfelt. So again, I reiterate, I'm not doing this for the money either, right? So I'm neutral on this. But in the interest of the board as a full, I would like to see us, if that's a proposal you would like to make, allow the whole board to review and make a decision on it. I'd be willing to let it go that far. Because I am neutral. I don't need it. You know, I'm in here to do it to serve the people. So, but again, everybody's in a different position here, right?
Yeah.
We all work full-time jobs, and I agree totally. We are limited to who can be chair, because the hours these guys put in is unbelievable.
Yeah, and it probably shouldn't be. And excuse me, I don't mean to overspeak.
No, that's fine.
Because it's kind of been a thorn in my side. It's almost like we created a part-time position, and you think you're doing a good service because you're giving it a full-time freebie for a part-time pay. Well, that's a great deal for the taxpayers.
Sure.
But is it really? Because now, again, you might have somebody who's just a dynamo and all the rest of that. You know, either make it a full-time or make it a part-time.
Sure.
take some of the stuff off, or make it at least a little bit more possible.
Sure. And to add to that, I mean, look at what we're doing with the volunteer fire departments and stuff too. Incentives have to grow with it or people just don't get interested. And I think it's important to have, like you said, the best we can here to serve the people.
And again,
So,
small amount. It's a very minuscule amount.
Couple last comments. There's never a good time to do this because it always looks self-serving, right? But the principle of the thing is, yes, it is a role of service. And if anyone is concerned that taking an increase is less service, then perhaps they should focus more on what they're doing as part of that service rather than the amount. If you feel like you're being paid too much, then do a little more, work a little harder, right? And the other thing is, in our society, when things are given too easily or too cheaply, they aren't valued. You look at free lunches at schools. Nobody appreciates that. When you look at free money that was handed out, you know, at any scale, really, after a while, it's kind of like, okay, thanks, but nobody appreciates that. When you look at free public education, who cares? And that sounds crass, but in the grand scheme of things, most people in our society, if it's free, they don't value it. And so as we look at our constituents and oh, you got a bunch of people that'll serve for almost nothing? Great, let them go. I'm not going to do that. I think part of the reason there is such a disdain for public servants in our society is because they aren't so highly valued and because they are such givers, we are such givers, that we allow people to take advantage of us. And it just isn't right. The laborer is worthy of his hire. And in this situation too, we need to remember that. Any other comments, questions? Supervisor Shadron. At this point, Chairman Schleif and I will work with county staff to put forth a proposal for discussion by the full board.
perfect.
And I just would reiterate at this time, speaking into this microphone, that I support that discussion, and I do believe it is time. Last time I did not support it. We had a lot of unanswered questions, but I think now is the time that we start doing at least a little something. Because I am on the campaign trail trying to find people to run for the board, and you know, it really would help. So thank you for that.
Anything else on this topic?
I'm good.
With that, our next meeting date is August 20th, 25th. Supervisor Kelling, thank you for filling in for me. There was absolutely no good way to get here today from Milwaukee, between construction and an accident and more construction and then other construction. So thank you for your patience and thanks for filling in.
You can thank the Department of Public Works for that.
We are adjourned.
That's funny. I was calling him to tell him I was going to be late, and he's behind me.